Good evening and welcome to our second to last episode of the year. I'm Dakota Smith.
And I'm Meredith Fish. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving and are looking forward to the rest of the holiday season.
Tonight we'll once again be joined by our Weather Risk Management Club, and they'll be discussing how weather impacts holiday travel.
Heather Waldman from the Penn State TV production class will take us inside Beaver Stadium and show us how the crew gets ready for the impacts of weather before the big game.
But before that, we have a lot of news in the weather enterprise and climate science community. Here's this week's update in the air.
German researchers are testing the use of rain cars for more accurate precipitation measurements within particular regions of Germany. Using GPS and one's windshield wipers, the researchers hope to collect large amounts of data. With 40 million cars in Germany alone, even if only a fraction of the cars were capable of this new technology, these researchers will have many more statistical points to correlate and analyze their rain data. The difficulty comes in measuring the amount of rainfall from the wiper blades. Ideas have included speed of windshield wiper and optical sensors for collecting data. Scientists have been successful in a laboratory setting, but accuracy will be much harder to obtain outdoors with many human variables evident. With the environment of this research, they are not looking for picture-perfect statistics, instead a higher number of measurement points.
According to a new study, total methane emissions in the United States appear to be 50% higher than previously estimated by the Environmental Protection Agency. One major source of methane has been emissions from fossil fuel extraction and refining activities in the south-central United States. New measurements have found that these emissions are nearly 5 times higher than previous estimates. There's no doubt that methane emissions are increasing, but what exactly will this mean for the environment? Methane is a potent greenhouse gas that is capable of trapping energy in Earth's atmosphere. Due to the increasing rate that methane is being released, scientists at several institutions across the United States are working on a system that will measure methane concentrations more frequently than current operations.
The Desert Research Institute installed a cloud seeding program for the winter of 2012 to 2013. This program added an extra 6.6 billion gallons of water to the Tahoe Truckee watershed. With this program, mountaintop generators inject storms with silver iodide particles to enhance storms for more precipitation. With a perfect winter, one that started stormy and ended dry, the seeding program had the opportunity to showcase its advantages. Water providers are backing this program for the 5th straight year, contributing almost $300,000 for the DRI's cloud seeding operations. The DRI has 5 generators ready for the upcoming winter storms to continue providing extra water to this watershed.
Over the weekend, a rare phenomenon occurred in America's greatest national monument, the Grand Canyon. Oddly, the canyon didn't appear as a canyon at all, rather a sea of puffy clouds. It all started when close to an inch of rain fell over the last week, supplying moisture for the canyon. Cooler conditions settled in and didn't allow the rain to readily evaporate and in turn stick around. As a high pressure moved in, clear skies and calm winds developed, setting up the perfect scenario for a foggy morning. Overnight, the skies were clear, which allowed for rapidly cooling at the surface. The surface became cooler than the air above, and a phenomenon known as an inversion was set in place. This inversion acted as a cap and trapped the moisture in at the surface. In results, tourists saw a rare sight, and it made for some great photography. That's Update in the Air for this week. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Up in the Air. We're now joined by Max Vito and Josh Google from Penn State's Weather Risk Management Club.
We all know the travel situation last week was crazy, but Max, how did the weather make Thanksgiving travel even crazier?
Thanks for having us, Meredith and Dakota. As you may know, the day before Thanksgiving is typically the busiest travel day of the year. An estimated 39 million people traveled on roads this past Wednesday, with an additional 3 million traveling through the air. This year, a strengthening storm system unloaded windswept rain along a large part of the I-95 corridor. As temperatures cooled overnight, some of the wet roads froze, resulting in an even more dangerous scenario. In addition, high winds with gusts up to 65 miles per hour affected the New England region, causing property damage, power outages, and downed trees. In other parts of the Northeast, most of the precipitation came in the form of snow, which created slippery road conditions. Erie, Buffalo, and Rochester received between 6 to 8 inches of snow, and Syracuse saw up to 10 inches. High winds also caused blowing and drifting snow, which reduced visibility for travel.
So you've talked a little bit about car travel. Could you mention the storm's effects on air travel?
Well, Dakota, airports were overwhelmed with delays and cancellations this past Wednesday. Around 6,000 flights were running behind out of the 32,000 flights planned to fly in the United States. 300 of those flights were canceled as a result of the strong storm system. The greatest delays occurred in the major airport hubs in the Northeast. Philadelphia had delays that reached up to 2 hours, caused by 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Delays in Newark were around 30 minutes and up to an hour at New York's LaGuardia and JFK airports. In fact, a total of 1.3 million people traveled through New York's airports this past Wednesday. The delays in this major choke point caused a rippling effect for other airports around the country.
Well, that certainly sounds like a mess. So how do airlines deal with flights that are delayed or canceled due to inclement weather?
As you know, safety is a main concern for airports, and this past week's weather gave airlines plenty of reasons to cancel and delay flights. Airlines are required by the Department of Transportation to either completely refund customers or place a passenger on a different flight if their original flight is canceled. If delays last several hours or even overnight, airlines are not required to give customers certain amenities like meals or hotel rooms. Some larger carriers will offer such customer service to ensure repeating customers.
Yes, Max, and with that said, it is important that flyers come prepared when there is inclement weather. If long delays are expected, they should be sure to pack a snack or even book a hotel room for the night. If flyers wish to cancel a flight and look to reschedule with a different airline, they should first make sure that there is no financial penalty.
Thank you, Max and Josh, for an awesome report.
Thank you, we had a great time.
JP and Brady will be here with next week's Risk Report.
Thanks, guys. We'll be back in a moment with more here on Up in the Air.
Welcome back to Up in the Air. The winter chill has certainly set in, and there's even some snow on the ground.
That's right, Meredith, and it looks like the winter is here to stay. Ryan, what can we expect in our climate outlook?
Yeah, guys, you're absolutely right. The main weather headline in this week's Climate Outlook is going to be the colder than normal weather for much of the nation. But first, I'd like to take a step back and review fall here in State College. The months of September, October, and November are typically considered autumn for meteorologists, and records here in State College and the Department of Meteorology go all the way back to the 1800s. So pretty impressive data set, and the mean temperature for the 3-month period was a ½ degree below normal. So just below normal temperatures here in State College, almost 8 inches of rain and 4 inches of snow and ice during the fall months, and all of that occurred during the month of November. In terms of November itself, it was a very cold month. There's no two ways about that. Average high 48, average low 31. That brings you a mean temperature of 38, and actually that ends up being about 3 degrees below the average mean temperature for the month of November. So it was a very cold month, no two ways about that, with about 4 inches of snow and ice here in State College. In terms of what we're expecting going forward, the 8 to 14 day period from December 10th through the 16th, the only place on the map with above normal conditions going to be here through the south. Above normal temperatures through Florida and through the Gulf Coast, but much of the nation is going to be dominated by the cold that's going to come in from the Arctic and Canada. Much below normal temperatures expected through the high plains, Minnesota, Dakota, extending even into Wisconsin and Michigan. And notice this plume of below normal temperatures here through much of the middle part of the nation as well. Now, if you have the cold air in place, of course, this is the time of the year, especially here in the Northeast, where you start to talk about snow. And the expectation here in this 8 to 14 day outlook is above normal precipitation through much of the eastern seaboard. Really, the only place on the map with below normal precipitation will be through parts of Texas and the middle part of the nation. So it's something that we're going to be watching. There's no two ways about it. Winter is starting to take hold, at least here in the Northeast. Next up, we have one of our meteorology students, Heather Waldman, who had a great look at Beaver Stadium and how they and the Nittany Lions football team prepare for the weather and deal with it.
Each week, thousands of fans pack the bleachers of Beaver Stadium to watch the Nittany Lions square off on the gridiron. But it's not just the players that take the occasional hit. Every week, dozens of grounds crew members patch, mow, and paint the field to have it in pristine condition for the opening kickoff. And Mother Nature is always a part of their planning.
The weather is a big factor in what we do day in and day out, not only for events. It kind of drives what we do and what we can do, whether we can spray a fertilizer or spray a chemical, or whether we can paint. We can't paint in the rain, or whether we can go mow. So the weather determines, every day, and you start that process by looking at the weather days in advance. So we'll go back to the Kent State game. We knew that we were going to get some sort of rain activity, so we didn't water the field at all that week, so that the timing in the event, it was going to rain during the game, that the field could take the additional moisture.
Of course, when bad weather makes a mess of the playing field, it can also alter the entire atmosphere of the game.
I think it affects the game to a certain degree. I mean, the coaches, they game plan, and they're obviously looking at the weather, and they're tailoring their game plan for it. But I think the fans, at the Kent State game, the fans there weren't a lot here, but they were loud and into it. And I think it brings a unique atmosphere. I don't know how to quantify it. I think it's just different.
Planning around the weather to work in an empty Beaver Stadium is hard enough, but what about during the peak of game day action? Bad weather not only makes the field more difficult to work with, it can also pose a threat to fans and workers alike. That's why in 2012, Penn State brought on an on-site meteorologist to join the game day staff.
The main duty is to provide notice real time if there's going to be lightning, heavy rain, or strong winds affecting the stadium. We do primarily function just during game days. There is some advanced communication prior to the game, especially if bad weather is anticipated on the game day, communicate the forecast and the possibilities. And we also speak to the grounds crew as they prepare the field during the week before the game.
As they say, regardless of the weather, the show must go on, and Mother Nature will always be a part of the game day crew's planning. For Up in the Air, I'm Heather Waldman.
Well, that was an awesome look at how the Beaver Stadium crew prepares for various impacts of weather. Thank you, Heather, for a fantastic inside look.
We'd also like to thank Max and Josh for their risk report. As always, the Weather Risk Management Club will be back next week. But that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Meredith Fish.
And I'm Dakota Smith. Join us next week up in the air.